Good evening, and I'm calling this meeting to order of the Burbank Police Commission regular meeting for May 21st, 2025. I'll repeat this twice, but I'll start now. Public comment options. To speak during public comment, members of the public may speak for 3 minutes in person and in the council chambers, or they may call 818-238-3335. That's 818-238-3335. Members of the public who attend the meeting in chamber will speak first, followed by those phoning in their comments. And if we do have anyone here that's wanting to offer public comment, just please kind of come over to Sherry and she'll get you set up with the card. Let's go ahead and start with our roll call.
Good evening. Commissioner Chapman?
Here.
Chair Coombs?
Here.
Commissioner Ellman?
Here.
Commissioner Feruzin?
Here.
Commissioner Hakobian?
Here.
Commissioner McKenna?
Here.
And Commissioner Wenzel?
Here.
Thank you. For our flag salute, I have a guest in the audience, Liam McKenna, who has offered to lead us in the flag salute this evening. Liam, come on up.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. For members of the military, salute with your right hand. All others, please put your right hand over your heart. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we will move into item C, which is commission announcements and reporting out by commissioners and ad hoc subcommittees. And so we'll go ahead. We're going to switch it up a little bit. Ann, do you want to start? And we'll go from my right to my left.
Unfortunately, I have nothing really to report. We had
That's okay.
a meeting scheduled for yesterday that's now been moved to Tuesday of this coming week with with Superintendent Parama with the school district. So we'll be following up on school safety, bicycling, and other matters.
Great. Thank you. Mike?
I attended the swearing in of our new police chief, who has a wonderful memory, by the way. Congratulations.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you, Layla. A couple things for me. I attended Police and Fire Day. Thank you to Romick and Paul for helping set that up and to the department. I provided the semi-quarterly report to our city council liaison, so I want to get back in the habit of doing that quarterly. And also was able to attend the swearing in of Chief Quintero. So welcome, and we're glad we've got you in place. Mike?
I also attended the chief swearing in ceremony, also attended Police and Fire Day, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Mike. Paul?
Same. Police and Fire Day, I think, was a great success, even though it was incredibly hot. It was a wonderful idea for us to have water there for people. I think it provided a little bit of safety. And I was at the swearing in of our new chief. I actually even asked our chief to carry a water bottle on Police and Fire Day to set the example because we were afraid of getting heat casualties. So thank you, Chief, for playing along.
Paul, thank you. Romick?
Thank you, Chair Coombs. On May 17th, I attended the Veterans Appreciation Night. Thank you, Councilmember Zadi, for the invitation, and thank you for being here tonight. And on May 13th, attended the swearing in for the ceremony for the new police chief. Congratulations, Chief. And then on May 10th, I attended the Police and Fire Service Day with Commissioner McKenna, Commissioner Coombs, and also Commissioner Elmon. Wonderful way of just interacting with the community. And then finally, we have for the Drive Life Save Lives campaign, just an update. We have a upcoming workshop. It's going to take place on June 26th from 4:30 to 6 at the Boys and Girls Club. It's called Let's Talk Driving. Big thank you to the Burbank Police Department and Glendale Police Department for all their support. And the flyers and materials are available for anyone in the public that wants to view them. They're right here in the hallway. And that's all.
Great, Romick, thank you for that. So again, we're going to move into item D, oral communications. And before I do, I just want to give the announcement again for public comment options. To speak during public comment, members of the public may speak for 3 minutes in person in council chamber, or they may call 818-238-3335. Members of the public who attend the meeting in chamber will speak first, followed by those phoning in their comments. Sherry, do we have any comments? We have no comments in chambers. Do we have any comments on the phone? Are there any phone comments? No comments. Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and move on to item F, which is approval of minutes from the April 16th, 2025 meeting. So what we'll do is I need to go ahead and call a motion to approve the minutes for April 25th, or April 16th, excuse me, Mike.
I'd like to move that we accept the minutes as
Mike,
written.
Mike Chapman moves to,
Second?
Romick seconds. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposition? No abstentions? It's unanimous. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to item G, items of business. The first item that we have is a presentation, discussion, and recommendations, if applicable, on the impact of narcotics on arrests made in the city of Burbank. And we have with us crime analyst Ken Panu. Is that correct? Panu, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Say hello to the police commission and command staff. If you could start the PowerPoint, please. Okay, my name's Ken Panu. I'm a crime analyst for the Burbank Police Department, and I'm here to talk about the connection between drugs and crime in Burbank. I'd first like to talk about the police reporting. We used to have a system called UCR, which is Unified Crime Reporting. We now have NIBRS, which is the National Incident-Based Reporting System. It was implemented in January of 2022. We use it to send statistics to Cal DOJ and the FBI. And we adopted the system. It provides greater precision in reporting offenses. It collects more detailed information, helps give context to specific crime problems, and provides greater analytic flexibility. Next is a list of drug offenses. 11350HS, and HS is health and safety, is possession of controlled substance. 11351HS is controlled substance with intent to sell. 11357HS is possession of marijuana. 11359HS is marijuana with intent to sell. 11364HS is drug paraphernalia. 11370.1HS is controlled substance while armed. 11375HS is possession of synthetic drugs. 11377HS is possession of methamphetamine. 11378HS is possession of methamphetamine for sale. And 11379 is HS is manufactured drugs. For frequent drug offenses, the following drug offenses account for 88% of the drug arrests in Burbank. For 11350HS, this is 15% of the drug arrests. And this includes cocaine, heroin, LSD, opiates, fentanyl, which was recently included, and prescription drugs for illegal use. 11377HS accounts for 28%. And this includes methamphetamine, ecstasy, GHB, ketamine, and other stimulants, depressants, and hallucinogenic drugs. These are considered party drugs. And 11364HS is 45%, and this is merely drug paraphernalia. Our theft offenses are broke up into 8 categories. We have retail theft, shoplifting, theft from vehicle, theft of car parts, pickpocket, purse snatch, theft from building, theft from coin-operated machines, and all other larceny. And retail theft accounts for over 60% of all theft offenses, and it is also more than any other crime category in Burbank. So I'm going to move on to drugs versus theft. This is January through April of each of these years. 2022, drug offenses was 761, theft offenses 812. In 2023, drugs were 520 and theft was 819. 2024, drugs were 523 offenses to 844 theft offenses. And in 2025, the drugs were 547 and theft was 759. Now, drugs versus theft for entire calendar years. In 2022, we had 2,199 drug offenses, 2,289 theft offenses. In 2023, we had 1,613 drug offenses and 2,642 theft offenses. In 2024, we had 1,548 drug offenses and 2,502 theft offenses. Moving on, this is drugs while armed, January through April of each year. And this is possession of drugs and possession of a loaded firearm. In 2022, we had 8, 2023, 12, and 2024, 4, and in 2025, we had 6. For entire calendar years of drugs while armed, in 2022, we had 27, 23, we had 34, and in 2024, we had 26. Next is drugs. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't move that ahead. Next is DUI drugs, January through April of each year. And this is for 3 vehicle codes for this category. It's 23152C, which is driving while addicted to drugs. F is driving under the influence of drugs. And G is driving under the influence of drugs and alcohol. In 2022, we had 31. 2023, we had 22. 2024, we had 22 as well. And in 2025, we had 11. And for calendar years, in 2022, we had 84, 23, we had 63, and in 24, we had 48. And it's possible that more acceptance of ride sharing, our DUI checkpoint saturation campaigns, and education through social media is driving these numbers down. For drug and theft, for calendar year at the Empire Center, in 2022, there was 98 drug offenses, 239 theft offenses, for a total of 337 offenses at the Empire Center. In 2023, there's 47 drug, 452 theft, and 499 total. And in 2024, there was 30 of drugs, 468 theft offenses for 498 total. Now for drug and theft for calendar year downtown, this is mainly the mall and village area. For 2022, we had 19 drug-related offenses, 154 theft offenses, and 173 total offenses. For 2023, we had 18 drugs, 154 theft for a total of 172. And in 2024, we had 16 drug, 150 theft, and 166 total. Now for drug and theft, 2025, January through April, and just concentrating on the Empire Center, for a total, we had 274 at the Empire Center versus 61 downtown. And under both, that means somebody got arrested and they had drug and theft offenses on the same report. At the Empire Center, we had 23 and 6 downtown. For drugs only, there was 31 for the Empire Center and 3 downtown. And for theft, there was 220 at the Empire Center and 52 downtown. Next, I'd like for you to take a look at the drug arrest locations. The larger circle is the Empire Center and the smaller circle is the downtown village area. And I know there's a lot of red other places in the city, but I showed you how many are downtown and in the Empire Center, and these other numbers are way lower. If I had control over that map, I thought those red areas should be a lighter color. But regardless, the reason we have the drugs around the city are we get the drug arrests from traffic stops, subject stops, and theft arrests mainly. And those happen throughout the city. Last thing I'd like to talk about is Proposition 36. And this is Drug and Theft Penalties and Treatment Mandated Felonies Initiative for 2025. It was implemented at the beginning of January. And this is felony or increased sentence for certain drugs or theft arrests. And this is for subjects who have 2 or more prior convictions for theft or drugs. 11395 HS is for drugs, and we've had 40 between January and April. And 666 PC, Penal Code, is theft, and that's 44 between January and April of this year. So do we have any questions?
I'm sure we do. I want to open it up to other commissioners if you'd like to start with questions, or I can jump in. Okay. Well, first, Mr. Penhu, thank you for presenting this information. I love data that sings to me, so I appreciate this a lot. One of the things, I got a chance to take a look at it's called the Offense and Arrest Summary Report. It's posted on the website on a monthly basis. And one of the things I just wanted to note, and this is not specific to this presentation, but overall total offenses, it looks like there's actually been a drop in crime in the month of April over the prior year of like 14%, which surprised me. It's a good thing. It surprised me. But then I was looking at the categories in that report, and I'm wondering if you can help. You're familiar with the report?
Yes.
A little bit. Can you help us navigate this a little bit? I appreciate your presentation. Actually, gave a lot more insight, and it grouped together a lot of the categories to help us understand it better. I'm looking specifically at the report, and it talks about drug and narcotic violations under arrests, and it looks like there's over twice as many arrests this year over last year.
We've had a lot of arrests this year, and I don't know how to really say why we've had more, but actually every year we've seemed to have more arrests than the year before.
Okay.
But as far as the offenses to go with it, it doesn't seem like, it's just a bigger percentage of arrests, it appears to be.
Okay.
And that's mostly for theft offenses, they seem to be going down
Right.
year to year, and drugs seem to be up a little. And in my opinion, that's a good thing. We're catching the drug addicts, and
Right, right. And with what you were describing in the data, it was you were showing how it might be like a theft arrest that then has a narcotics charge along with it because they were found with narcotics in the process.
Yes.
So I appreciate that information. I actually, quite by accident, I didn't plan this. I went to a presentation today by the Department of Public Health, and am seeing, unfortunately, we're just seeing an increase year over the last 5 years of substance use increases. So the increased data. The arrests mean that we're finding people and they're being detained and they're being arrested. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised that we're seeing an increase in the numbers though, because the arrests are just like what we've got in offenses reporting and then arrests, we're probably going to continue to see increases because there's an increase in substance abuse that's taking place in the community. So I appreciate the presentation and seeing how it fits in with the data. So I appreciate that.
Okay.
I think that's all the questions and comments that I have. Paul?
Two questions involving our laws. What impact do you think the change in the law in January, where once again theft and drug use became felonies, has that had an impact numerically or?
I can't say for sure, but of those 40 or 46, those would have been drug arrests or theft arrests, so they would have been arrested either way. But I don't know if the word's out there that this is, I don't know if the drug people know that they can get arrested this way because the penalties will be higher.
Yeah.
So they probably find out after they get arrested, and I think we're going to see more and more of this, actually.
And second, how much has the legalization of marijuana impeded our officers?
Impeded our officers?
It affected their ability to make arrests or to enforce?
Well, to be honest with you, I see kind of a decrease in that, but they're allowed to have 28.5 grams. They just can't be smoking it in public, and I don't know that I've seen that much for sale. I mean, if you look at the percentage, there's these three that are up there.
Right.
Marijuana is way down on the list percentage-wise, and the data I've been looking at is all after that was legalized, so to really look at it, I have to go back and compare it before that. But
I appreciate it.
it
Thank you
looks
very
like
much.
it's been minimal to me.
Thank you.
And we have seen an increase in both the opioids and synthetic opioids that your data shows as well. Romit, go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. You mentioned that educational campaigns kind of have been helping kind of deter some of the arrests. Can you talk a little more about that, what those campaigns are?
With the DUI?
Yeah.
Yes, it's really the situation for DUI. I think they're funded by grants, and we've been having those more often, and we publicize those that we're going to have them. So hopefully that keeps people off the street or keeps them from using it. And I can't prove it, but I think rideshare could have a great deal to do with it because it's been going down and rideshare is getting more popular.
That makes sense.
And
Thank
we
you.
have tried to educate. I mean, there's nothing concrete that says one affects the other.
Sure. Thank you.
There's also ways and things of that nature show,
Excuse-
publicize it, so that kind of, I think it affects our officers' ability to have an impact. But just knowing they're there, I think, has an impact.
Mike, go ahead.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's interesting to see that there is a strong relationship between theft and use of narcotics. If you can educate me, what's the difference between a synthetic drug and a manufactured drug?
To be honest with you, I'm not a drug guy, so I don't know a lot about it. But the research I've done, I've seen a lot of crossover between. What? Oh, okay. Sure.
Good evening, Commission. If I might, just really quickly, my name is Mike Edwards. I'm a sergeant with the department. I work our investigations division, currently in charge of our crimes against persons. But prior to that, I worked our specialized investigation detail, our gang unit, both as a detective and as a supervisor. So hopefully I'll be able to answer a few of your questions. The difference, you'll see the slide that Mr. Panu made, and he enumerated sections 11350, 11377. Synthetic drugs are going to be drugs such as methamphetamine, LSD, GHB, drugs that are made by people using compounds, whether illegal or sometimes legal, but when combined become an illegal product. A non-manufactured drug would be such as your heroin or your cocaine or or marijuana have a natural basis to them.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It just seems like, I mean, you guys have been really busy. I mean, this is 4 days of arrests in Burbank. Oh. Ready for the circle. Anyway, let me ask you with the numbers. If the CHP stops somebody on the 5 or the 134 within the boundaries of the city of Burbank, do their arrests count in these numbers?
The answer to that is no.
Okay. And any information on dealing in Burbank of people who are independent contractors?
Yes, sir. So and that's going to be included in Mr. Panu's presentation as well, as far as a drug for sale arrest, which would be a felony, or a simple possession arrest, which is a misdemeanor. Our officers make arrests day and night, 24 hours a day for drug sales cases off of simple proactive traffic stops while the community is asleep and during the day. You'll see those reflected on the logs that you're reviewing on a regular basis. And there's two components to that. There's the patrol uniformed officers who are making those arrests based on what they're locating on traffic stops, pedestrian stops, or calls for service. And then there's the investigative component where our detectives investigate those crimes after the fact and try to build those cases, identify more dealers, and sometimes leading to individuals who are selling drugs that could lead to deaths, fentanyl, and a lot of things that you're seeing in the media on a regular basis too.
Any idea what's special about the Empire Center? I mean, compared to the Burbank Town Center?
In my opinion, I believe it's simply because of popularity. It's a nice place to shop. Regionally, it's a destination that attracts people to the city for a lot of good reasons, because of the shopping and the variety and everything that is there. But the sheer concentration of people, I think, drives those numbers. It's not that the location itself is inherently a hotbed of criminal activity. It's just that you have a large number of people there, and I think you see that reflected in the numbers.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you. Ann?
Thank you very much for your report. I have two questions, and they might be a little outside the scope of your investigation, but one of them was, is there any information in terms of, particularly I'm guessing at the Empire Center, theft to purchase drugs, even like right there?
I could look that up by.
Oh, I don't mean you
but
have to.
I don't have that available.
Okay.
But if I looked up those codes, like I had the 10 codes up there, if I looked up the specifically for intent to sell, I could have gotten that number.
And thank you. And then my second one was, is there any breakdown in terms of age, range, empire, theft, shoplifting, drug arrest, compared to at the mall?
You know, I haven't done that study yet either, but I will say I read the reports every day, and it's everywhere from teenager up to 60-year-old, It's a wide range of people. And if I had to guess, mall, I'm sure, attracts a younger crowd. But I'm just saying, reading reports, it's all ages.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Before I go to you, Mike or Layla, did you have anything? Okay. Roman, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Do we have any data around residents versus non-residents in regards to these arrests?
Excuse me?
Do we have any data around resident versus non-residents in regards to these arrests?
Like I said, I can accumulate data. I don't have that available right now.
No worries.
Thank you.
I'd be interested in that as well because of the proximity to the freeway. I was wondering my next question was going to be about the freeway, easy on, easy off.
Yeah.
The Empire Center becomes more of a attractive nuisance for that reason.
I did notice on the heat map as well that a lot of the heat map really emphasized areas that are high traffic, that are coming in and through Burbank.
Yeah, I don't have that available.
Mike or Layla? Okay, with that then, Mr. Panyu and Sergeant Edwards, I want to thank you for this presentation. Before we move on to the next item, I wanted to open up for the commission. Is there any additional discussion or are there any recommendations that folks wanted to make or explore?
I would ask the department if there's any recommendations of things that we can do to help, because it seems like
Okay.
they've got their thumb on it.
Okay, that's something that we can ask, we can actually ask that outside of this meeting as well. So, okay, thank you. Any other recommendations or discussion? Mike?
I would just like to see in the far future that we review this again so that we can see the trends in numbers.
Appreciate that. And actually, to connect those dots, we had a previous presentation on retail theft, and the Empire Center was a real central area, so it wasn't a surprise that it popped up in this presentation as well. So,
Actually, that brings a quick question. At that time, they told us that the Costco was considered part of the Empire Center. So does numbers include that parking lot, or?
Yes, I do.
okay. With that, thank you, Mr. Panyu.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. We're going to go ahead and move on to item G2, which is a presentation, discussion, and recommendations, if applicable, from the Mental Health Evaluation Team as to updates and any changes on the interaction with mental health professionals and law enforcement. We have Officer Adley Sudbrook here, along with clinical social worker Estela Magana. Oh, no, we don't.
I'm just a guest speaker.
We have Lieutenant Green. I should look up more often. So, Lieutenant Green, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Coombs, Commissioners, good evening. I'm just here to give a brief introduction. We had some staffing changes within our mental health team at the beginning of the year, and I had the privilege of introducing those changes to City Council back in February, but I have not had that opportunity here tonight. So you all remember Veronica Mealy, who was our clinician prior to the start of the new year. She accepted a new position within the county and parted ways at the end of 2024. So we do miss Veronica, but we got a very strong replacement in Estela Magana. And Estela is a licensed clinical social worker with over 5 years of experience within the LA County Department of Mental Health. She most recently served as a member of the Intensive Services Foster Care Administration team. Estela holds a master's degree in social work from Cal State LA, and she has previous experience working in hospital psychiatric units, outpatient therapy, and with at-risk youth in a gang reduction program. Estela brings a lot of great energy. We are very happy to have her, so welcome, Estela.
Welcome.
And also, you all remember and worked with closely Officer Anisha Kiles. She's still around, but she is now Detective Kiles. She transferred over to the Domestic and Family Crimes Unit shortly after the first of the year. So again, we got a solid replacement in Officer Ashley Sudbrook. Officer Sudbrook has been with Burbank Police for over 16 years. I was actually one of her field training officers. She has over 10 years of experience serving on the department's crisis negotiations team. And she was a field training officer herself. So Officer Sudbrook is an invaluable asset. She's actually cross-trained as both a jailer and communications operator. She fills a lot of staffing shortages in our comm center on a regular basis, so we are happy to have her here. Officer Sudbrook. And last but certainly not least is Kelly Bravo Cuevas. Kelly's actually been with MET since 2019, and this team does not exist and does not function without the work that she does. She is an administrative analyst, and she does the majority of heavy lifting behind the scenes with case management, administrative work, and collecting statistical data that helps MET focus on high utilizers and other important details in the performance of their duties. Kelly is a very, very important part of this team, so thank you, Kelly, for all the work that you do. With that being said, my job is done. You're not allowed to ask me any questions. And I'm going to hand it over to our Met team to provide you with a brief update on some things over the past year.
Lieutenant Green, thank you. And welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kelly Bravo Cuevas, and I'll be starting off with the PowerPoint on an update on our mental health evaluation team. If you can pull the PowerPoint up. So, considering it's Mental Health Awareness Month for May, I will be providing a brief overview of our mental health trends within the city of Burbank for 2024. As you can see on the slide, we're experiencing a decrease in mental health commitments for 2024. And for viewers that are not aware of mental health commitments, we refer it to as 5150 holds, which is from the Welfare and Institutions Code. It is an involuntary mental health commitment that determines if a person is a danger to themselves, to others, or gravely disabled. Only law enforcement and certain designated mental health professionals can place people on holds. So as you can see, we have experienced a decrease in commitments for minors, unhoused individuals, but we have seen an increase in individuals age 60 and up, which we'll go over in a bit. Overall, Met activity. We've also experienced a slight decrease, but that was mostly due because we did not have a clinician. We were transitioning between Veronica and Estella, so that accounts for a little decrease in our activities. And how I like to break up our activities is the team goes out on calls for service, and they also do case management follow-ups. We've seen an uptick in our case management efforts, such as responding to referrals from the community or for our officers, and as well as homeless outreach and follow-ups. I'll start off with the first challenge that we've seen between law enforcement and mental health, which is with the older population. So primarily within our context, 22% have been for people aged 60 and older. And interestingly, within a short amount of time, in late 2024, we've seen an uptick in the hoarding incidents. Approximately 15 individuals from late 2024, even until now, we've responded to a lot of calls for service for concerns of people that are hoarding, so collecting a lot of items, not necessarily sanitary conditions, and we've seen that as a challenge because of the limitations that we're able to do. Hoarding does have mental health underpinnings, but it is not a criminal activity. It's not illegal to do so. There might be challenges in placing individuals on mental health commitments. There might be chances where we're able to, but really we're concerned about the long-term solution. So even if we place someone on a hold, it's a short-term solution because once they're released from the hospital, they'll be placed back in the same conditions. So that's usually what we've had a lot of challenges with. As well, even with this population, we've seen a lot of time that requires a lot of contact to build rapport with this population and have them to be more agreeable to the services, which I've seen a lot of days worth for in-home supportive services, APS follow-ups, medical services, and mental health services. And I will pass it on to Officer Sudbrick.
Thank you, Kelly.
So one of the other challenges that we're experiencing now, we're seeing an increase in calls for service to go out and assist PMRT, which is the Psychiatric Mobile Response Team. It's a two-man team, primarily clinicians, from DMH. So essentially, if your family, loved one, friend is suffering from mental health, you don't want police coming to the house, you don't want officers showing up in uniform in the black and white, you can call Department of Mental Health, their access line, explain the situation. If they think it renders it, they'll send out the psychiatric response team. They come in a plain car, may or may not have the DMH symbol on it, but then it's two clinicians dressed like Estella, so it's kind of inconspicuous. If they determine the person meets the criteria for hold, they'll write the hold, they'll find a hospital bed, they'll call a private ambulance, and they'll transport the person themselves. So no police encounters. However, their policy states that if in any way, shape, or form the person they're contacting starts getting aggressive, uncooperative, argumentative, refusing, their policy states they have to call local PD. So we're starting to see an increase in the calls for them calling us. It was kind of catching us off guard because we weren't 100% sure what our role was with this. So we were finding that when we got there, they were asking us to do not very kosher things, some very illegal things. They want us to force entry into homes. They wanted us to forcibly remove people. They want us to hold down people on the gurneys, things like that. Luckily, we go everywhere in twos. So if you were a younger officer, you might be ready to go and go help them out. Some of our more senior officers were very quick to stop and say, hey, this is very illegal. We can't do this. This is why. Per our own policy, if we were in the same exact situation, we wouldn't do this either. Specifically, we have a veterans complex here that only houses veterans. A lot of them suffer from mental health. PMRT's out there a lot dealing with that. They try to call out some officers, force in a door to take a guy on a hold. Luckily, the officer was very senior and explained to him, legally, we cannot do that. Policy-wise, we're not going to do that. And we were able to walk away. PMRT's job after that is to continuously follow up to try to build a rapport and hopefully get the person the help they need. So because of these calls and the varying degrees of them, we had to sit down with our command staff and figure out a policy and how we're going to respond to this. We've talked to the surrounding agencies. They all range in different ways they handle this. Some teams literally go out and they just stand there in uniform. They don't talk. They don't engage. They do absolutely nothing. Other ones go 100%. Some of them do exactly what their policy would state if it was their call. So it kind of just varied. Talking to our captains, our command staff, we're going to send out a supervisor along with our 2 officers so that the supervisor can learn the situation right with the officers, kind of put ourselves in those shoes and determine how far are we going to take this physically. Ideally, we're going to stand by and just be like a show of force. We may try and help the person, like, hey, coerce someone to the gurney and go to the hospital, but we're not going to physically get involved. If we determine that this person is a danger to other people, we may uptick it, but every situation is going to be different. So that's what we're going to decide as we're there, and a supervisor is going to supersede that. That's it, right? Yeah. This is yours?
Okay, yeah. So some other challenges too that have been presented is that DMH is increasing their teams within LA County. So now there's more people going out aside from the PMRT. Examples are, the field intervention teams, and then I think they're trying to get other teams like MCOT. I'm not sure exactly what that stands for, but they're contracted through various agencies to serve as PMRT. And they have a reputation of going out to the home in the middle of the night, having the reporting party wake up the individual, even though now they're regulated and they kind of re-trigger. But MCOT also has the tendency to try to hand over the hold to the responding law enforcement agency, which is not legal. So we have advised lead officers that if their police people that they're in charge of are ever approached, not to ever take over a hold and not to void a hold. Because if MCOT has said, well, if you're not going in there, then you're telling me that you're voiding the hold. They're kind of playing mind games with that. So that's no, I'm not saying that. I'm just not getting involved in your hold. So we have to be mindful of all our community members and officers in how the county or the teams are coming out. Okay. Let's see what else.
And just an update on the police vehicle. It's been in service for a little over a year now. It's been working great until it hit summertime, and it hit over 90 degrees, and we realized the cage in the back didn't have air conditioning. Oh. So it wasn't until we got stuck on the freeway one day in the middle of summer that our guy got a little sweaty and a little hot. So we quickly had City Yards take the car. They were able to set it up with AC and heat, because then on the flip side, it gets a little chilly in the winter time. Since then, it's been working great. We're doing about 90% of the transportations in it, as long as they're not disgusting and mess up my car. Specifically, we had a juvenile that was really anti-police. The parents were not police-friendly at all. We were able to show up in the plain white car, and they were much more at ease with transporting her then. She got in the car willingly, she went calmly, and the parents were satisfied. So that one worked out very well. We also had a very elderly male, pretty bad dementia. Couldn't remember why we were there, what we were doing, so he kept forgetting. We placed him on a hold for gravely disabled, and the only way we could get him to go to the hospital was, we're not police, we're just going to the hospital to get you checked up, and because it was a plain white car, he got in the car willingly and he went with us. So it went very smooth. So it's definitely paying off and it's helping out great. Any quick questions,
you.
concerns?
Did you say quick questions or concerns?
I said any questions, concerns. But I stuttered, so.
I got questions and I got comments, but I really appreciate having all three of you here. And Lieutenant Green, let me open it up to commissioners first for what questions and comments you might have. Let's go ahead and start with Mike Ellman.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for what you do. My question is, I'm confused, which is normal, but I'm confused. I understand if somebody calls the non-emergency number here in Burbank or 911, you guys will be involved first.
Ideally,
Yeah.
yes.
But all the other teams you mentioned, who dispatches them?
Department of Mental Health.
Access.
Yeah, their access line.
And it can go to different teams? I mean,
Yes.
Yes, so
And-
they cover all of LA County.
mm-hmm.
The response is delayed. So that's why they tell them if they're in active crisis, they're actively suicidal, they're actively trying to harm a family member, you're calling 911, you're getting your local PD out there. If they're schizophrenic, off their meds, not taking, not sleeping, eating, but this has been going on for a while, sometimes it's a couple hours for them to respond. I think I've seen it as fast as 20, 40 minutes, but it's usually ideally a few hours, and then they'll come out and they'll do their full eval.
Thank you for clarification. I'm not so confused now.
Mr. Elman, can I also add that because when we had the macarons with Met, many of the community members did not know that there was a Met with Burbank. And it's been here for a while, so maybe their lack of knowledge that we have a Met team here, that's why they reach out to PMRT, maybe that's why they're responding.
You reminded me, I attended your macaroons with the
You did?
police.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed how other healthcare workers approached you. And I really thought that here in Burbank, there should be some type of coordination, maybe a once-a-year meeting so that you can tell the people who are doing this, I guess in private industry, you're available and what you guys offer and what they offer, and see if there's any type of handshake that can
We
take
jumped ahead of
place.
the game with that when we've already met with some of the therapists here in Burbank. We've discussed a game plan, right, to refer and for them to refer to us, right? So we've developed that relationship with Soul Tenders, which they specialize in EMDR training, which is specific to severe trauma PTSD. So we've started.
I think that's great because we're a community.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And I will
Thank
say
you.
also, Officer Campos with Community Resource Officer and her uptick in social media,
Yes.
like she's been putting this out there a lot, and I think that's also helping the public know what's going on. We're also, I feel like, getting more out in the schools. So the counselors are real quick to say like, hey, we're having trouble here at school, everything's fine, but when you go home, here's the phone number for the mental health team if you need a follow-up.
That's great.
Yep.
Fantastic. Paul, go ahead.
Above all, I want to say thank you. 2 years ago, when I went to the NOCO conference in Chicago, they gave a presentation on this, and when I went through the whole conference, there were only two things in Burbank that I didn't think Burbank was shining at, and I knew this was on the agenda, that it was coming up, and now I personally think you should give the presentation because this is just a golden example. But I also think that across the board, Burbank PD just does a phenomenal job of de-escalating. And I think that this is just taking it one step further to people that are not necessarily have the ability to make decisions on their own and just prevent a tragedy. So thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Romick, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Crooms. In regards to the mental health commitments, I've seen the numbers decrease. Is there anything driving that? Do we know what's causing that?
So every situation is different with each hold, but
There you go.
again, every situation is different. We don't have a specific answer to that because mental health commitments uptick. They go almost in waves, even after the 2008 recession. it was pretty much down, but then it went, the number of mental health commitments went up within the city of Burbank. Then it's going down again, up during COVID. Now it seems to be going down. That seems to be my answer. Even in regards to the juveniles, I was really surprised to see that there was even a low, low number. But we really like to think all of our efforts of follow-ups, proactive outreach, really makes a difference, because the linkages to resources is phenomenal. Where we really love to connect the resources to give people the resources that they really need.
Yeah, and I just want to leave you with a compliment. I was at the NACO conference this year with Commissioner Ellman. Was it this year or last year? It was this year.
2024.
I'm losing track of time. So, yeah, it was 6 months ago.
Millennial.
So we had the honor of being with Detective Kiles, and she gave a great presentation on the Met team and everything that you guys are doing. And we saw it as, I know Commissioner Ellman will agree, the future of policing, where after that presentation, she had a line of people from different departments all throughout the entire country wanting to talk to her about mental health and how they can apply a program like that to their local agency. So thank you guys for everything that you do, and I'm going to leave it to Commissioner Coons to ask all those wonderful questions.
Well, I want to come over here and see if you, Layla, go ahead.
I think probably most of us have some questions or want to know more about the dynamics with LA County, but I'm going to let you ask those questions. But I had just a related question on the decreases. So, like you said, with the follow-up, is some of that, I know sometimes it'll be, a smaller group of folks may be related to, half or a majority of, calls for service around the same thing. So I'm wondering is it some of it that and a reduction in that with the follow-up? Do you have any idea in terms of versus, it's just an actual number of people,
Yes.
Involved?
I will
is
say we
decreasing?
do get a lot of repeat callers.
Yeah.
We're very good about giving them our phone number so they call us directly and they're not calling dispatch repeatedly. I will say, working dispatch as often as I do, I'm able to field those calls and I just immediately give them my extension, like, hey, call me Monday, let's talk Monday. Estella and I are very obsessively recalling people, especially juveniles. Even if we don't put them on a hold, just checking in. How are you doing? What's going on? Did we see the doctor last week? What happened?
Yeah.
What are we doing this summer? Just making casual conversation, just kind of building that rapport, and it seems to be slowing down the repeat calls.
Yeah.
I'm also on my guys on patrol to email me, text me when they're going to houses that seem like they might be a repeat call, something that we should at least be aware of. Even if it's not something that they're think it's a big deal, I have them text me just like, hey, keep an eye on this address, keep an eye on this person. So that way it's in our wheelhouse. It's something we may follow up on. So we can try and hopefully cut it off before it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that was another question I had in terms of, I think it's been expanding the hours, right, for the Met team, but it's
Yes.
not 24/7, right? So just kind of, how does it, relate on those
So
times, but.
We just got
sounds like
approval for the
jumping
second
the
team,
loop.
which will cover 2 additional days,
Okay.
which is gonna be great.
Yeah,
But I like to think I'm also doing it over the weekend too, because I usually work dispatch Saturday, Sunday, so there's 12 more hours right there that I try to help out as much as I can. And then the guys are pretty good about calling me on my off days too to ask me where they should take people and if they have any suggestions. So just trying to be open for them and giving them Estella's cell phone number too to make sure that they have that. So she's also getting bothered on her home days. So just to help out.
And we also do the new hire training, and we specifically focus on mental health and how they should approach or
Right.
what tools they should have in their pocket.
So everybody
yes,
should have a
yes.
baseline kind of.
And I wanted to add that actually Burbank is pretty unique in what they do. My colleagues are very jealous of me because of the job that I landed here in Burbank, because it's a very, it's looked upon for, as an example, but we're unique in the sense that we do case management, because I checked with my other colleagues and they don't do as much as we do. But I love that part of our job. And so I think that actually drives a lot of the reasons why things are decreasing
Yeah.
and perhaps they're a little bit more steady.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think my last question was, the only group that was mentioned for an increase was people over age of 60. So I was wondering if there's anything to that, behind that you could.
Well,
Found.
from what
Go,
we hear,
and
right?
go ahead and use the microphone as well, because I realize that online they might not be picking that up.
So from what I hear when I came here, right, there's a lot of citizens that are born reside, and then this is their last stop. So I think that we're just getting to a point where they're aging out, and a lot of dementia is included in that, hoarding for sure. And so when we generate, because for hoardings, we're mandated to go ahead and report for self-neglect, right? Depending on the circumstances. Majority of the hoarding is because there's animal feces, they perhaps don't have food in their homes or whatnot. So I believe that's the reason, but I'm not sure if Kelly agrees.
I agree. Yeah, I agree, and it's a lot of conditions just meshed together. Medical, number one thing, we're even referring out to Genesis with DMH, which focuses on older adult population, and they do a multitude of things, medication, psychiatrist support, making sure that they're following up on their doctor's appointments, and that's really what we're seeing is a large variety. We've done over the last couple of years, we've talked to a lot of doctors and nurses and setting up the appointments just for them to come and do their visits to people's homes. So not just mental health, it's a lot of things meshed together.
Kelly, before I let you go, can you describe a little bit more what the Genesis program is and how you interact with them?
Yes. So the Genesis, the DMH Genesis program is for older adults, age 60 and over, who have severe mental health issues, and they're mostly about they're not able to get the resources themselves because they're isolated at home. They're mostly bedbound, or just not able to do some of the follow-ups on their own, call their doctor, get their meds refilled, or even seek therapy. That's what the Genesis program focuses on.
Thank you.
I was looking up, trying to see what the name is, because it's an acronym. Oh, sorry. I was trying to look up the name because it's an acronym, but I can't find it right now. But yes, you have to be homebound and with the mental health diagnosis for them to be found eligible. And they're really good about assessing the individual and saying, hey, you know what, they're beyond what we can provide. Because if they have dementia, I think they're too involved, so they refer them to other programs like Full Service Partnership, which is another mental health provider that comes out into the community or meets them at home, wherever they're at.
Great. We're going to let Layla finish up, and then we're going to come back over to Mike Elman.
My last question. Thank you. As far as the case management and the follow-up and referring to services, just wondering how that's going right now. Do you find that there are appointments available, you're able to get in touch with people and make those connections and get the services? Is there a shortage of certain types of services and not others? Just how is that going right
So there's definitely a shortage, and I don't think they exist, but of mandated services, right? Because everything is voluntary. There has to be a process, but I'm a social worker, obviously, from my background, and not to toot my own horn, but I will toot it. I am very good at resource gathering, and I will drive the message when I'm calling someone like APS, for example, right? Before I came aboard, APS was that we were filing APS reports, and they were just generating the report back to Burbank PD, right? So when I came, I'm like, oh no, that's not gonna happen, because the reason why we're doing APS is for them to follow up with case management. So when I was filing the reports, I said, please make a note on the report that it's not to be re-referred to Burbank PD because we've already done the investigation. We're doing our report. We need case management. And so a lot of the referrals that we generated have stopped coming to us. They still come to us because someone else has generated them, but a lot of the reports that we generate stop coming to us. So I'm a firm believer is if a child needs a referral to a treatment center, for example, we go out into the community, go visit the site, and really know what we're talking about. We are all about figuring out what resources are out there, who's taking new clients, what's the process to that, right? Because we don't expect someone in a crisis or even their parents to kind of navigate the system if we don't know it. That's where I come from. So I try to do that job and try to mitigate the time it takes for them to get linked. So yes, research. I'm learning every day. Yeah.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Mike, we'll come back to you. The other Mike.
This is a perfect time for this presentation. I believe this is National Mental Health Month.
May is Mental Health Month.
Happy Mental Health Month to you. When we're talking about staffing issues, and we're limited in that we don't have 24/7 coverage, and I realize that our Meta group is still pretty much in the development period. We're, what, just a couple of years old?
She's been here
Since 2012.
Anyway, I don't know if there are plans to increase the staffing, but when you don't have that extra staffing, then you pass that off to either county or some other government entity?
Or our own officers, right? And then they're tasked with letting us know what's happened. Let's say there's a graveyard, the people that work graveyard. I'm not sure the terminology for the police, but let's say they encounter someone with mental health and they have to place them on a hold, then they generate that information to us, and then we follow up with it. So that's how it's being handled right now.
And I'm looking at our entire meta staff here right now. Nobody can take vacation. You'd be in trouble. You know?
I'll be gone for a few weeks.
Her cell phone will be on there.
I know. Hello.
Let me pass to Mr. Elman here. Thank you for your presentation. Oh, I was going to ask about numbers. And two things. One is, how many specific individuals do you get a call for in a period of time, over a year or something like that? And then the other is, you're a first contact, like EMT. Once you've made that contact, that individual then is passed off to another organization or entity?
So we'll go to the call. If they need to be placed on a hold, we will transport them to a hospital where they'll get the care they need. If they don't meet the criteria for a hold, we'll kind of assess the situation, see how we can help them. We'll start going through our resource book and we'll see what maybe matches up best for them. And then we'll try and start linking them to those resources and those services. And then we try to follow up with them to make sure they stay on it so that they don't ever have to see us again.
So it's not long-term, it's more a response to the immediate response, and then shifting that long-term onto another organization.
I will say a lot of them probably do get shifted to where they need to be, to the resources that they need. If they're properly linked, they're getting what they need. We do have some that refuse resources, and they call us daily. We'll see them weekly. You know, probably more than we should, more than we like to, but we make that time for them to try and keep them where they need to be.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And we're going to go to you, and then we'll come back to Mike.
Okay, what was it? Okay, regarding the increase in commitments of folks over 60, one thing, and uptick, you said it goes up, it goes down. I imagine the economy has a lot to do with it. Now there might be other things. Do you ever work, say, directly with like Jocelyn Center and provide or encourage them to provide programs that can deal with that issue of, you know, depression, anxiety?
Yeah, so we actually, our order group, we do suggest them like, hey, socializing. They have means to pick you up, drop you off. They have events. We've actually been using them for like the hoarding situation because they have programs for that as well. So they've been a good resource for that. If they don't have stable food coming in, Jocelyn Center is also good with linking, setting that up for them. So we try to encourage them to remember it's there, follow up with them, and we also give Jocelyn Center their information so that they can follow up as well.
Have you guys ever gone to, say, Jocelyn Center and done a program on this is what we do? And
We did a few years ago. I wasn't on the team, but I know that our previous team did do a presentation for the Jocelyn Center.
because I think you guys would be great.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Mike, go ahead.
The last time I was on a ride-along, we had an interaction with 2 veterans who were in VA programs. What is your relationship with the VA? And
Very good.
So we actually met them on a call. We got dispatched to a call for someone in crisis, and as we were responding, we were told the VA was also en route. So we kind of got there, made sure the person was stable, they weren't actively trying to hurt themselves, and then once the VA got there, they took it over. If they're linked, the VA is supposed to go out first and contact them, unless it's kind of like a delayed response on their end. honestly, they're better to deal with that because they know the terminology, they know the lingo. These guys start talking to me in abbreviations, and I don't know what they're saying. So it's better to have them. If we find out that they do have a veteran background, we're calling them, we're texting them, asking them like, hey, do you know John Doe? Here's his date of birth. Can you give me any insight on him? If they have a team available, they're going to meet us out there. If they don't, they're really good about telling us what the history is and helping us get them linked. And then they're also good about finding a bed for them too if they do need. We can take them directly to the VA instead of someplace else, so it gets, the longer route to it.
Thank you very much. And it reminds me of when we had the interaction on the ride-along, one of the people kept on using the term 68 whiskey. And, it's something not everybody knows about.
Yeah, they're definitely a group where I have to Google things on the side to make sure I'm not agreeing to something terrible.
Paul, go ahead.
On the other end of the age spectrum, you mentioned that you'd worked with foster care.
Yes.
My parents were foster parents, something close to my heart. What is your engagement with foster children in Burbank and SROs?
And if you go ahead and use the mic.
I'm sorry. I don't think we've encountered any. No. So part of the role that I have too, when we do assessments or crisis evaluations for juveniles, is I call a hotline and I check if they have a current open case, right? Because there's certain procedures that you have to follow if they have an open case. All the ones that we've had up to date have not have an open case, so we've had no encounters with any foster children, believe it or not. And then for the SROs, you mean the school resource officers? So we work closely with Officer Roberts, and the reason being because there's been a couple of threats that have been conducted or have been happening, and so when Officer Roberts and us, we consult, we take the next step to refer them to START. Are you familiar with START? It's the System-Wide Threat Risk Assessment Team, and so it's like for cases of school threats like shooting, right, or violence towards a peer. So far we've had 2 or 3 submissions of START. START is great, they come out, but like everything else, it's voluntary, so if the parents refuse, they don't have to follow through, and it does a disservice because let's say there's a high propensity for violence or for the school shooting, it's voluntary, so if they refuse, I'm encouraging the clinician, if the parents refuse this service, potentially filing, unfortunately, child abuse for psychological neglect, right? So I don't know if that's going to go, but if we have one with the high propensity for violence right now, and I would be fearful if the parents didn't accept, because I don't know how, moving forward, what her likelihood of doing something is, so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna try to behave. For again, happy May is Mental Health Month. I just want to start by just acknowledging we've been having this team present every year in May, and one of the things that comes out of this is seeing how the team has progressed and how the work and the investment has progressed. And I wanted to lift up something that I've heard repeatedly about the collaboration, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing in terms of the relationships and the expanded relationships. So something that I'm really hearing is not only your investment in the work as a team and the department's investment, but it sounds like the community investment. And so I'm going to jump around in my notes a little bit, but one of the things is that I really appreciated hearing, even though there's a double-edged sword, is PMRT's investment. This is a community that PMRT used to not show up in, thinking that somebody else would take care of it, and they'd be going to other locations. So the fact that there's increased PMRT contact here is great. And I'm also familiar with the MCOP program, which is the contractors coming in, and understand how that can be challenging as well. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Actually, first I'll ask this one real quick. Kelly, has Estella been in your ear about working on a master's in social welfare? Just asking. You can say no.
I haven't, but someone else has.
Perfect.
Watch, tell him.
I am currently in the master's program at Cal State LA. I'm in the 3-year program. I just completed my 2nd year.
Perfect.
And I'm going into my final year.
I'm a huge fan of growing your own, so I really appreciate that and really happy to hear that. So,
Thank you.
Okay, jumping around a little bit, you talked about, there was mention, Officer Sudbrook, about walkaways, and that happens sometimes where there's a call out, there is, it's all hands on deck, and then you'd made reference to this, and I've heard this in other locations as well. Can you describe a little bit about what a walkaway is and when the team decides that they need to do that?
Yeah, so again, every situation is going to be different. It's all going to be based on the history, what they're showing and presenting in that moment. If someone's saying like having thoughts of suicide and they don't want to get in the ambulance, they want to walk away and they do start walking away, we're not going to go chase them and fight them and beat them up to get them in the hospital, force them to go get help.
Right.
We may walk next to them and just try and have a conversation with them, but that's about as far as we're going to take it. If they're threatening harm to someone else, that might be a conversation we have to have with the supervisor to say, hey, how far do you want to take this?
Yeah. What about when the team chooses to walk away or disengage? Because I know that comes up every once in a while with some agencies.
Our specific team or
Yeah.
PMRT?
Yeah, your team.
So, again, it's our policy. We're not going to force entry into someone's house, room, car, or something to hurt them in order to get them help. We're going to take it as far as we possibly can. I'm a crisis negotiator, so I will sit there and try and pull all the tools out of the bag and see what I can. Bring in somebody else to help me out. We'll try and find any hook we possibly can with family members, friends, animals. I don't know. We'll try and pull everything possible, as far as to the point of forcing entry and harming somebody.
I appreciate that. This is just a suggestion, and this has come up in other jurisdictions about, because you mentioned hoarding, and there's an increase in hoarding calls and everything as well, and those are really tough, and the Genesis program runs into this on a regular basis as well. I'm just passing this information along and actually asking a question. How often does your team interact with Burbank code enforcement around hoarding situations?
So we're actually starting to use that one as well. I'll work hand in hand with some of our fire department guys and let them know, like, hey, do you guys mind just driving by, taking a look at the front yard, the backyard, tell me what you see. As far as making entry into the house, it's got to be voluntary. So that's going to be one that we find the family member, a neighbor, someone that they trust that we can befriend to, like, hey, can we just take a walk through and see what's going on? If fire's able to do it, we'll try and sneak in a code enforcement guy. They've sent me a whole list of codes to be aware of, and then if I see them, I'll give them a heads up as well. On the flip side, they get complaints, and then they forward them to us, like, hey, we're seeing a hoarding situation, can you guys go check this out? So we do kind of work hand in hand with them. I will say I probably have a better relationship with the fire department so far, just because they kind of know what we're looking for, so, yeah.
Fantastic. Last question I have, and this is, Estella, you may have the information on this one, and you can also call an audible to Lieutenant Green on this. There's going to be some legislation that's changing, or it's already changed, and it gets implemented this coming January, and I know a lot of systems are working on it. It's related to changes in the Lantrim and Petra Short designation for who can be placed on a hold. It's actually going to expand, and it's going to include being able to put somebody on a hold for substance use issues under the mental health 5150 designation. I'm curious as to what discussions have taken place so far internally in the department, or what your thoughts are on it.
So we are definitely going to get retrained, obviously. So each of us that are certified to be able to place people on a hold have to take a course and an exam, right? And so,
Me too.
Yeah. So in January, that's when that's going to take effect. So my supervisor has given us the heads up that right before January, for sure, we're going to have to get that new training.
Yeah.
We're going to have to take that new exam because, yes, like you said, if they're actively wanting to hurt themselves and their substance use solely or primarily, then we can place them on a hold now. Whereas before it's like, okay, well, this is more criminal or this is more substance use, and let them just be. So now we're going to be, it's gonna impact for sure the placements that we're going to be able to put people on. We just got to make sure. I just got to make sure Sudbrook protects me before I'm able to do the evaluation.
I will say to follow up with that, though, if we do determine it's more drug-induced than mental health, they may most likely go to jail for being under the influence. Once they've gone through the sobering period, we're going to go back down and reevaluate them.
Okay.
Like, hey, now that most of the meth's out of the system, are we still seeing things, hearing things? If they still are, we're going to take care of that for them. If they're not, then we're going to try and link them.
We're starting to see state grants come into place that will start to develop facilities specifically to receive folks. Because right now, part of the problem is if somebody's placed on an involuntary hold, presumably for a substance use issue, there's no place for them to go other than a medical emergency room. So I think that's going to change up a little bit. I also see Lieutenant Green starting to sneak up in the back. I don't know if you want to jump in at all on this one.
I was just going to close it out if that was your last question. No, I did want to close it out by saying, a piggyback on a question that Commissioner Ferrugian asked and something that Estella said. I think there's a bit of a misconception with MET, and they're viewed a lot as an initial contact first response unit. And they are a lot of the time when they're here and on duty, right? But we all know that that's half the time, if not less. The bigger picture is that their focus is a commitment to that case management, the follow-up, and seeking sustained care for the unhoused population, for mental health, et cetera, et cetera. I'm often asked how Burbank so effectively manages the unhoused population and mental health in the city, and it really is a testament to their commitment to that follow-up work and managing a case and seeing something through from start to end. And when the patrol officers do respond and they're not available, it's the information that they gather from them that allows them to start a folder, get into the systems, and start working on that sustained care. So they're humble, they're not going to say all that, but really that is the key to the success of this team. It isn't the initial response and contact is important, but it's the stuff on the back end that really makes a difference. So.
I appreciate that. And much larger agencies will have a separate team internally that handles that case management piece. So the fact that you're doing all
you're
of
looking
that
at them right here.
It's a testament to what you're doing. I appreciate that. All right. Any other last moment questions before we wrap this up? Okay, I want to thank you all, Lieutenant Green, Estella, Officer Sudbrook, and Kelly. I want to thank you all for being here with us. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to item G3, which is a presentation, discussion, and recommendations if applicable on a statistical review of RIPA data for the city of Burbank last year. And we have Lieutenant Emil Brimway. Lieutenant, welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Lieutenant Emil Brimway with the Police Department. I'm currently assigned to our Professional Standards Bureau. The statistics that we're going to review is going to be for the 2023 calendar year. Get the slide. Thank you. So just a quick background, AB 953, better known as RIPA, the Racial Identity Profiling Act, was introduced by state legislation to help end racial and identity profiling. It required the police departments to gather certain data and share that with California Department of Justice so it could be processed to see any trends of any sort. The Burbank Police Department began collecting data in 2022. Just as a reminder, Veritone is an app that the police department utilizes. Police officers do have their apps or their handheld devices with them in the field where they can input the data required for RIPA after they conduct their traffic stops. They can also access the app on their desktops at the station at a later time as well to input the information that we gather and collect. I'm going to go into demographics really quick for the city of Burbank. We currently have approximately 103,000 individuals that live in the city. That number balloons to about 250,000 daytime population. That includes individuals that are here for work, pleasure, business, shopping at the Empire Center, the mall area, so on and so forth. So that's something to keep in mind, that regionally we have a big influx during the daytime in the city from individuals that do not necessarily reside in the city of Burbank. Some demographic data for the city of Burbank. I wanted to start off with, so whites account for approximately 54% of the city. Hispanics are about 25%. Asians are 12%. Two or more races are 5%. African Americans are 3%. And another 3% are going to be other races, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Native American, and so on. But again, for that big influx of individuals that come into our city, I wanted to share the demographics for the city or for the county of Los Angeles. Many from the county do come and visit Burbank pretty frequently. Whites account for 30.1%, Hispanics are 44.6%, two or more races are 19.7%, African Americans are 7.6%, other races 25.4%, and Native American, Pacific Islander, and so on are less than 2% of the population for the county of Los Angeles. So this here is showing our self-initiated activity versus calls for service. So we had over 20,000 RIPA-related contacts in 2023. Almost 18,000 were self-initiated, and another close to 2,300 were related to calls for service. This slide is very important here because it shows that of all the stops that were RIPA-related where it required an entry by the officer, about 92% of those stops, the officers reported that they first formed their perception of the individual after contacting them, not prior to the traffic stop, pedestrian stop, and so on. So about 93% is conducted, or the perception was formed after they contacted the individual. Stops by perceived race and ethnicity. There's some numbers here. About 8,600 were white, reported by the officers, 7,200 Hispanic, almost 2,300 Black or African American, 1,300 Middle Eastern or South Asian, and 681 were Asian. The other numbers are pretty minuscule, as you see on there, between the Pacific Islander and Native Americans. So for basis for search, the big one is up top. It's 15,623. So that's almost 80% of the contacts that the officers are making that require a RIPA entry. There is no search of the individual, handcuffing or anything like that, close to 80%. 17%, or about 3,500 of those stops, are consent provided by the individual. The incident to arrest is almost 700. Officer safety of others is about 150. And as you can see, the other numbers are pretty minuscule. Visible contraband, evidence of crime, whether someone's on parole or probation, if it's related to a search warrant where they're contacting other individuals in the home that was not the subject of the search warrant, and so on. So for result of stop, you'll see here citations for infractions were about 8,600. And nearly equally to that was warnings, about 8,200. So it shows that officers are not just out there pulling everyone over and writing everyone tickets. There's a lot of education that's going into traffic-related issues. As we know, traffic is the biggest complaint for the community, and so officers are out there visible, making traffic stops, issuing citations at their discretion, but also educating and providing warnings to individuals as well. Custodial arrests without warrant was about 2,300. Field ID cards complete on individuals about 363. And then the rest of the numbers go down from there as far as no action taken. These are individuals that are placed on 5150s that we search and handcuff. It includes individuals that we use services like ambulance to transport the individual, not necessarily going to jail, but we're assisting paramedics with subjects and getting them treatment as needed. Warnings versus citation by perceived race, ethnicity. So for whites, warnings were 3,354, citations were 4,287. For Hispanics, warnings were 3,598, citations were 2,469. For Asians, warnings were 287, and citations were 369. As you can see, Native American and Pacific Islander, the numbers are pretty minuscule. And then Middle Eastern or South Asian, 503 for warning, 749 for citations, and for African Americans, 1,211 warnings and 674 citations. So next slide is arrest by perceived race, ethnicity. For whites, it was close to 1,000. For Hispanics, it was a little over 1,100. Asians, 34. Native American and Pacific Islanders made up for 6. Middle Eastern, South Asian, 92, and Black African American, 380, were the arrests reported by officers for the 2023 year. Warnings versus citations versus arrests by perceived gender. Male warnings were almost 7,000. Citations were about 5,400, and arrests were close to 2,000. For females, warnings were a little over 2,000. Citations were around 3,100, and arrests were 642 for females. And then for the gender nonconforming, transgender man, boy, and transgender woman, girl, the numbers are pretty minuscule up there, as you'll see. It's very small numbers for that. This here shows reason for stop by perceived race, ethnicity. I'll start off to the right of the screen. It's for traffic violations. So for whites, 7,000, almost 7,300 were traffic violation related. For Middle Eastern, the larger numbers I'll go over was 1,193. For Hispanics, it was 5,955. For Blacks, African Americans, 1,823, and Asians, 614. Those were traffic stops for various vehicle code violations. The next section is reasonable suspicion that the person was engaged in criminal activity. For whites, that number was 1,014. For Middle Eastern, it was 101, Hispanic 1,026, Black African American 391, and Asians was 55. Knowledge for the person having outstanding warrant for whites was 62, for Hispanics 43, and blacks 25, and the other numbers are pretty small, as you'll see on there, for the other races perceived by the officer. Consensual encounter resulting in search, it was 185 for whites. For Middle Eastern, 17, Hispanics 136, and for Black African American 35. For Asians was 8. Reason for stop by perceived gender. So for consensual encounter resulting in search, for males it was 330. Reasonable suspicion that they were involved in some kind of criminal activity, almost 1,900. Traffic violation was nearly 12,000 for males. Knowledge of outstanding arrest warrant was 106, and knowledge to be on probation or parole was 37 for males. For females, it was consensual encounter resulting in search was 56. The reasonable suspicion that the person was engaged in criminal activity was 692. Traffic violation was close to 5,000. Knowledge that the person had an outstanding arrest warrant out for their arrest was 32, and known to be on parole or probation was 8. So these are reason for stop based on gender. So that concludes kind of a general statistical data for the 2023 year. For 2025, what we've added to the questions that the officers are asking or learning of the individual, it's not required by DOJ, but it's for us to collect this data. Again, our population balloons up to 250,000. So what we want to see is what are the zip codes of the individuals that are being stopped, cited, arrested, searched, so on and so forth. So we've added that starting in 2025. So sometime next year, we'll have that data to further analyze and try to get an understanding of how that additional 150,000 individuals coming into our city, how that's affecting these statistics. Another question that we added on there was whether a person is on probation or parole. That's important because that's going to determine many times of how that individual, how that contact ends, whether they're arrested for a parole violation, whether they're searched because they have search conditions for parole or probation. So we want that additional data, again, that's specific for Burbank, so that way we could further analyze that and see what kind of role that plays with individuals that we're searching and or arresting. The last slide, this is a pretty, there's a lot of information on this slide. So I'll have you all kind of take a look at that. This is important because we have many checks and balances within the police department, right? So working professional standards, having been there for almost 2 years, having been a watch commander and a sergeant, an FTO, I can tell you all firsthand that professionalism is the number one priority and always striving for excellence. We're always striving for it. And we have all of these things in place here, our policies, procedures. We obviously have OIR that you're all familiar with as far as them reviewing any complaints that we receive, bias-based type of complaints or any type of citizen complaints. They scrutinize, review, ensure that we're doing detailed, thorough investigations of those investigations. We do countless numbers of audits and inspections every single year. Sometimes we do it biannually on certain areas. So just to ensure that our officers are continually remaining professional and verifying that, and then ensuring that we're constantly striving for excellence, ensuring that we are treating every community member, whether they live in Burbank or not, fairly, unbiasedly, and professionally. So that's the purpose of that slide, and I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I know I have a few questions. It's okay if I dive in? All right, so thank you for the presentation, Lieutenant Brimway. A few questions for you. There's a lot of data that you shared, and I really appreciate this. How is the data reviewed internally, and what does it mean to officers and internally within the department? I know that we're reporting this information out to the state, but I'm wondering what the discussions are like internally within the department about the data.
With regard to the RIPA stats?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that's done continually in roll calls.
Okay.
Every situation, every contact, there's always learning points from them.
Right.
The briefings that we have in roll call, the information that we gather through here is shared with the officers. The bias-based training that we receive regularly, that we're required to receive, and we do receive above and beyond, reviewing our policy, ensuring that they're reviewing the policies related to it, just to reinforce, again, that they're remaining professional, that they are remaining proactive to keep the community members safe. Obviously, traffic safety is a big deal.
Yeah.
So we're constantly reinforcing, working, being proactive, being professional,
Yeah.
and treating everyone equally.
I'm promising there's no gotchas in here, but
Sure.
I'm going to push a little bit. I'm thinking about presentations that we've received and had discussions about officer wellness, and I'm thinking about the resistance to participation in officer wellness programs and the growth that we've seen there. I'm curious now we've been doing RIPA now this is the third year?
Yes.
Third year. So I'm wondering if you've seen or perceived a difference in terms of how officers are willing to engage in the discussions around RIPA. Again, using the officer wellness program and some resistance to that in the first place. I'm wondering where officers are at now with RIPA.
I'm going to tell you that having been in charge of the RIPA program for 2 years now, other agencies locally, I'm not going to name them, have reached out to me particularly and have asked Glendale just to see how are we keeping the checks and balances in place, ensuring that the officers are abiding by it. And I can tell you, OIR has referred other agencies to me to give them feedback and advice on how we are keeping the officers accountable, ensuring that they are properly documenting every single RIPA. One thing I'll mention is officers are required, once they're done with the stop, to say 10-8 site RIPA, right? That's to remind them, that's to have the watch commander supervisors hear that they're cognizant of it, that they're going to do their RIPA. So my job is to ensure that all the RIPAs are being done. The watch commanders and supervisors are responsible for doing audits on the RIPAs. So they will find a different officer every week, and they will find a traffic stop, and then they'll look for the RIPA to ensure that the officer did complete one for it. So these are part of the checks and balances we have in place. So I think actions speak louder than words. I believe that the officers have embraced it, and years ago, I could tell you when we started it, it was embedded in them that this is a priority. It's state law. We're going to do it, and they have embraced it. And I can tell you, looking at the numbers, they are submitting their RIPAs as they're supposed to.
Fantastic. One more, and I won't drive this too far, and I'm going to combine two of my questions. Some of the data that you showed, I noticed that based on identity, there are some situations where there are higher warnings than citations given, and with other identities it actually flips, and there are actually fewer warnings than citations given. I noticed that around some of the racial identity categories, and I also noticed it around male versus female warnings. Two questions related to that. One is does giving an increased number of warnings create a problem in policing? Because then you end up with a community, if the community has access to this data, the community may be under the perception that it's almost a roll of the dice as to whether they're going to get a warning versus a citation. I'm wondering if that comes up as a problem in terms of policing in Burbank.
No, I mean, being a police officer is a big deal. It's very important, right? So officers are given a bunch of tools, a bunch of training, and are given the authority to use discretion when they can. There's times where you cannot use discretion. Traffic violations is one of those. I mean, that would have to be on a literally case by case basis. And why was the person pulled over? What was the person's demeanor? Were they receptive to the education that the officer was given? Did they blow off the officer? Were they kind of give an attitude that they didn't care? All these are going to play factors. How many citations have they previously received will determine whether or not, well, this person's obviously not getting it, and we need to make some adjustments to their driving behavior before they hurt somebody else. So it's hard to just kind of put it under a big blanket, but I could tell you the officers use good judgment. They use their discretion whether or not to cite or warn someone. And again, I think when the officers are out there being proactive, making the traffic stop for any vehicle code violation, I think their presence is slowing down other people. They see the police officer there. If they're not wearing their seatbelt, they're like, oh crap, I need to put my seatbelt on. If they're on their phone, they're going to put their phone down. So we're affecting 10, 15, 20 other people, maybe 30 other people on that 10-minute traffic stop. So we're warning all those other people without even have to pull them over. So there's the warning number, I think, is much greater than what we see on here. So
I'll turn it over to my other commissioners in a moment. One of the recommendations I'd like to make to the department, though, is to take a look at year-over-year data concern about trends there, and we can spend some time afterwards. I can show you what I saw in the presentation, just something to look at. I want to open it up to other commissioners. Leila?
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, and for explaining the department's commitment, and that I'm not surprised that there are other departments reaching out, because that's, we hear from OIR and others, that the department is really an example for others, so really appreciate that, and I'm not surprised. To your point early on, when you had the demographics of Burbank versus, I think it was LA County, was that
Sure.
comparison? Was
Yes.
Yeah, not the city, yeah. And so, obviously, they're quite different, right? Burbank versus the county in many ways. And so I'm just wondering, so the presentation was the number of stops, right? And, some of the, like, for example, the group that had the most stops or the most, arrests, the most everything really, right, was white, because it's, 54% of Burbank, right, is white. So I'm just wondering, in terms of rates, how have you tried to sort of tackle that and come up with a methodology to do that? So I understand why you might not want to say, well, just calculate a rate with the Burbank population because it more than doubles during the day. But have you all kind of tried to approach that or figure a way out to do that? Because then for some of those smaller groups, it may seem, we wouldn't know necessarily because the numbers are small, because the groups are smaller, so.
Yeah, there's certain areas where, as a police department, we don't have control over. So if we're receiving calls for service at the Empire Center, or we're having a residential burglary, or some other report by a citizen, and we're responding to these calls, we are searching them, we are arresting them. Those are called by the various businesses where the business is a victim. So it's hard to project that because sometimes we don't have control over these calls for service, which can range in the thousands, right? And a lot of times they're not Burbank residents. Obviously, the Empire Center is a big mecca area where a lot of people come to, right? Tens of thousands of people visit every year. That's the big example I'm going to give because we're all familiar with the Empire Center primarily. And so we do have a big influx between the 5 freeway and the 134 freeway. Burbank's a very convenient place where a lot of people do come. And so that's why I also shared LA County's demographics to show that we have so many people that come into the city, it's difficult to put a number on what races are coming from the other communities to visit here. That'd be hard. I wouldn't be able to do that concretely, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, I think that was my point, that it's kind of tricky. It's like, do you say,
The zip code capture that's coming.
Oh, yeah, I mentioned that. Oh, yeah, I apologize, yeah. Yeah, so the zip code thing starting 2025,
Should
yeah,
help,
that's going to
right?
start, absolutely will help, yes, as I
Should help,
mentioned,
yeah,
that
because
will
it's-
help us sometime in the 2026 year as we're gathering that data, that's going to help us, yes.
Yeah, because it's just hard to say, like.
Whether they're from Burbank or
What's the
not.
daytime demographics versus
That's
the
right.
Burbank residents demographics?
Correct.
Thank you.
Leila, thank you. Sorry.
Just a word. You had the zip code, you said, when was that going to go into?
That started January of 2025, so we're going to collect all of that data for 25, and sometime in 26, we'll analyze that to see who's being stopped, searched, and so on.
Okay, great, thank you.
Fantastic. Mike, go ahead.
Well, a couple of things, but I'll piggyback on the zip code thing. Don't we collect zip codes now? Or haven't we been?
Not for RIPA data. If someone's receiving a citation, on the citation, it's going to have their name, address, it's going to include zip code as well, but specifically to gather that data to see who we're arresting or searching, no.
It almost sounds like that would be more of a technical computer coding kind of thing where you capture that information, and that you could get that from historical as well.
We'd have to work on, that's not something that we've captured specifically for zip codes.
And you specifically said that the Veritone system is an app specifically used for RIPA, correct?
Veritone is for RIPA, where it's capturing every single
Right.
contact that's qualified for a RIPA stop.
Gotcha.
So now we will be able to get, again, that's something that we implemented
Right.
on our own. It wasn't required by the DOJ. Probably, there's almost no agency that probably does that in the state, maybe a few, but we decided to do that to further analyze that.
So if I heard it correctly, it would be they'd physically have to take information from one system and move it into another system, because the citations and Veritone are not the same system, correct?
It is not, no.
Right, okay.
Yes.
The reports dated 2025, the data is 2024 or 2023?
2023 calendar year is this data. We're currently working on gathering the statistics from 2024.
That data is, we send it right, almost instantly to the state, correct? Every day or?
It's done every quarter, yes.
Yeah. So that information locally would be available locally. We're sending it to the state, but we have it that we could report on earlier than that, right?
I wait to receive it from the state to ensure that the information that they have is correct. They're 1 year behind in not capturing, and releasing the data for all the agencies in California. So once we receive their data, then we process and we move forward with collecting our data as well.
The information that you presented tonight, is that posted on our website?
It is not at this point, no.
Jeepers, I was actually hoping it would be. I was having a little trouble reading the fine print. And would like to
What
look
we
at it a
do,
little
what we
bit
do
more.
post, what we do post on our website is RIPA Advisory Board's recommendations and the extensive report annually that the RIPA publishes. Those are on the
we have a link
website.
to that.
So that's all on there as far as for the state. And then from there, you can access any stats that are in there for Burbank. It's going to be hard to decipher it because it's a bunch of Excel spreadsheets with a bunch of numbers on it. And so someone would have to number crunch that if they were interested in doing so. But that information is available on the state's website.
Well, I don't know if everybody would like to see it or posted on the local report, posted on our website, but I'd like to get a copy of it, a hard copy if I could, if we can't post it.
Okay.
That would be perfect.
One of the things that we can emphasize too is that because this meeting is recorded and available online afterwards, we can actually go back and watch the presentation again as well. So that's just one, it might not necessarily be a physical report, but there is a way to actually review the presentation that was made later on as well, if you're interested in that.
Hold it, you're confusing me now. Do we publish a report that's?
No. What we're doing.
Publish a report?
The state publishes overall statistics for all law enforcement agencies in California, which includes Burbank as well. They do that annually. We post that on our website, and there's additional information in those reports of how you can access the state's website to get individual departments' data. But they're 1 year behind in publishing that data.
And tonight's presentation is going to be on YouTube forever and ever, so you can access it as well. So I'm just suggesting that's another way to access the data
Is it
from the
possible to
report
get the slides sent to
that was
us?
presented tonight. That's a
We
good
can do
question.
that. I mean, Sherry?
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Mike. We'll go over to Romick.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Coombs. Thank you, Lieutenant Brumway, for that thorough presentation. Always impressed with the level of detail you provide. In regards to how are the officers educated on how to determine the race of an individual stop? Like, for example, like white versus Middle Eastern. I mean, we're, as Armenians, considered white, but then sometimes people classify as Middle Eastern, so how do you determine that?
It's, the state says whatever the officer perceives that person to be. And I'm going to tell you many times, it's not going to be what that person is, right? So it's what their honest perception is what they're going to document. That's as good as I could put that, Yeah, because sometimes Armenians will be listed as Middle Eastern, sometimes they'll be listed as white. And you could say that about other ethnicities as well. Someone may look Hispanic to you, but may look white to me. It's your perception. And it's not, perception doesn't mean it's the accurate information about that individual.
It's kind of like best guess.
It is, and the officer, well, not guess, it's their best life experience, of dealing with people and different ethnicities and races, especially here in Southern California. We have every single race and ethnicity you could think of.
Or a background in anthropology.
Or background in anthropology.
Romick, go ahead.
And so just to follow up on that, so the officers are not to say they're not allowed, but is there any policy against asking the individual for their race, or is that something that's a no-no?
They're not supposed to ask the individual for their race. For RIPA-related purposes, it's got to be their perception. So if I look at you, and I think you're 55, but you're 35, you're 35, what I need to document on there is that I perceive someone to be 55 and not look at their ID and say, oh, they're only 35. Or during the contact, I think someone is maybe Indian, but maybe they're Persian, and they later tell me they're Persian. My perception was that that person was Indian. I need to document them, or whatever the closest thing is to that in RIPA. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Other comments or recommend? Mike, go ahead.
I was a little surprised to hear that the RIPA reporting is done on one system versus what our regular write-ups are done on. Is there no way to transfer that data over? It seems like it would save you guys time.
I'm not an analyst, so I'm not saying it's not possible. That's something that we can look into and explore, but we've never, that I'm aware of, collected zip codes of every citation, every arrest, every contact to then map out where they're from. So I don't believe we've done that.
But
Mr. Chapman.
Entering the information in two different systems, right?
Yep.
Yes, it is the information being entered into two separate systems because they have two very different purposes. The RIPA platform is a direct report to the state on the stop perceptions of the officer. Our in-house system for crime reports, arrest reports, field interviews, that is something that is in-house that may have a lot of information, a lot of contacts that are not RIPA related. And there is not currently a way to vet those things out and sort them out so that our in-house system would then be able to pick the information that it needs to report to the state reliably. We need the officers to make the decision on, is this a RIPA report or not? And there's really no way for us to take the RIPA report, those stops, and correlate them to what's in our in-house system. Because we may have stopped somebody and not have a full report on them. We may not have a full arrest report or a full citation or a full field interview if we just stopped somebody and advised them and sent them on their way. So they're two very different systems. They operate independently, and they do different things. And there's not a way to link up what's in the RIPA report to what's in our in-house system.
I find that kind of unfortunate. It just seems like it would be useful.
We're one of many agencies in California, and there is no system available for that.
As well as not only saving the officers time, it may be more accurate because you'd have, well, like the example, you'd have an actual age, or you'd have an actual address, and you'd have the.
But again, by law, it's the perception. It's not the actual.
Oh.
The law is not asking us to give the actual. The law is asking us to give the perceived.
Yeah. All right.
Mike, go ahead.
Thank you for your report.
I was just going to say that I'm sure the systems can do what Mr. Chapman likes if you'll have a couple $100,000 to give to the software vendors, and they'll be glad to make the change.
I mean, but that's what the Veritone app is doing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it only goes back to 2022, but that's exactly what we're talking about, I believe, here, is what we're doing. And it's per the law, we have to do it. So it's not, I don't look at it as a waste of time for the officers because we have to capture this data. So, and we're doing it now. We've done it for 3 years, and we're going to do it for many, many years to come. It's never going away.
Appreciate that. Romit, go ahead.
And if I can make a comment, I was on a ride along with the young officer, and after every single stop, he would pull over and do the RIPA report. And I would ask him, I'm like, what are your thoughts on the report? And it seemed like the philosophy was he had to do it, and he was really determined to do it. And it was valuable data that was being collected. So I'd really appreciate seeing him do that.
Thank you.
So I just want to provide that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or recommendations? Again, I'm just really appreciating the perspective that we've got because we're able to see this develop over time, so we're able to see changes in trends and how this is implemented. So Lieutenant Brinway and Captain Cornelius, I want to thank you for your presentation, and go Bruins.
Thank you. Go Bruins.
All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to item G4, which is general announcements by Chief Quintero. Brief announcements regarding upcoming events and or items of note related to the police department. Chief Quintero, welcome.
Thank you. And first things first, I want to thank my staff for their nice presentations that they gave, and hopefully the presentations were very informative for you all. A couple things on the list here, so just want to highlight some events that I was able to attend and some not others, but kind of what's going on within the organization. On April 26th, we partnered with the DEA for another successful drug take-back day, and where we were able to collect approximately 30 boxes of unused medication for safe disposal. And then on May 9th, I was able to attend my first Burbank PD graduation. So that was a really good night for me. Unfortunately, we only had one. Hopefully on the next couple of academies. I think we have 4 in the next coming academy. Should be a little bit better representation. But the nice thing about that was he was the top PT recruit in his class. And so in the next academy, which should be dates in July and October, we'll have the 4 that I just mentioned. May 10th, again, first time. Well, a lot of these, the reality is going to be my first time on all these events. But the Police and Fire Service Day. Didn't know what to expect, was thinking of it more from an open house. But someone here on the commission definitely did mention it as far as a really kind of wholesome / community event. The amount of people that just came up, having a conversation, interacting with, the level of appreciation for our police department, our community, was very heartwarming. A lot of good conversations, and Mr. McKenna, thank you for the water. It was hot. I think I went through at least 2 to 3 bottles of water. It was pretty hot that day, and being in this wool uniform doesn't help either. Mr. Green, Lieutenant Green, has already left, but he just recently returned from the 2025 Police Unity Tour, riding nearly 300 miles from New Jersey to Washington, D.C. at the start of National Police Week, honoring our police officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. And you talk about commitment, dedication, sacrifice, those obviously that have passed, but even for the men and women from the organization and across the region that go out every year and do this on their behalf. It's really impactful. If you ever have an opportunity to just connect with them, ask them about that ride, and they're probably going to hate me for this, maybe Green, but that is something that I would like to highlight as far as what they do on this ride, maybe some pictures for the commission. Think honoring not only those that have gone, but also those that currently carry on that legacy for others. Saturday, May 17th, BPD held its second Women's Self-Defense Seminar, which was a huge success, and plans are in the work for additional. I know before I came here, Officer Campos is one of them, Sergeant Dugas and Officer Pinsky are really kind of taking the initiative and the lead on putting those classes together. And I think they're working on putting some future classes. My understanding, it's been really, really successful. And last one, upcoming June 4th, the Police Department will once again participate in the law enforcement torch run for the Special Olympics. And Burbank PD will be receiving the torch from LAPD at the front of the station and then run via Glen Oaks to the intersection of Glen Oaks and Brand Boulevard, where the torch will be then handed to the gold standard agency across the way, which is Glendale. We're platinum. Thank you, sir. And that is all.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that, and welcome. So we're going to go ahead and move on to item H, which is introduction of agenda items for future meetings. And so thank you, Sherry, for preparing this for us so we know where we're at. And I also have my copy of the annual calendar here. We have already, for June, we already have agendized the update on parking enforcement efforts since hiring parking enforcement contractor Laz Parking, and that is already agendized, so that's ready to go. We have a few things on our we have the year in review on our dashboard, and then we also have coming up in July the school bike and traffic safety on the dashboard, and then future agendized, but we don't have a date for it, is review of annual crime statistics. If I recall correctly, the future agendized item of review of annual crime statistics, we were going to be waiting to get some direction from the department as to when the department would be best prepared to present on that. So I think we held on to, if I recall correctly, I think we held on to that, so we can come up with a collective date that works best.
If we're speaking about crime statistics in general, I'm believing that we were connecting that to our implementation of Versaterm and waiting for a 1 year.
Okay.
A 1 year time frame in that, so I think that's going to put us to August or September of this year.
Okay. Let's. I'm going to make a recommendation on that. Is that we hold off on setting a date on that because the I know a number of us are applying, and we're going through the process. The council is going to be going through the process of selecting new commissioners. So I'm a little bit ambivalent to obligate the next iteration of the commission to something right now. Is that okay with folks to not start planning for August and September? Does that sound fair? Does that sound okay? Okay, so we're going to hold off. We're going to keep it on hold for right now, and we can revisit that. I think actually appointments will be made by the June meeting, so we could pick it up then if we want to. Okay, thank you for that.
It's July 15th.
July 15th, perfect. Okay. So we're going to hold on to that. So we have a couple of agendized items for, one agendized item for June, and that is the year in review. And this is where we've just simply taken a review of our performance, the topics that we've covered for the year, and any changes or suggestions that we might have for ourselves. It's an internal presentation, but I would actually also invite department's input on that as well. That is on the calendar. It's on the proposal calendar, but it's not agendized yet. So with that, I'm going to open it up for motions for any new agenda items. Romick?
I would like to agendize an introduction and discussion with the newly appointed police chief, Rafael Quintero, to understand his vision, priorities, and plans for the Burbank Police Department. Of course, this will be a future agenda item, not anytime soon, possibly August, September. But I think that just leaving it on there on the agenda and then having that conversation with the chief to see when he will be ready to have that conversation.
Does that sound? So I have a motion for that. Before we open it up for discussion, do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
So I've got the motion, I've got a second. So let's open it up for discussion, and we can get some feedback on that as well. Does this sound like something that you're up for, and when, approximately when would you be up for it?
Absolutely. My only suggestion or recommendation would be to give me some time. And the only reason I say that is my first month has been a whirlwind in the sense of trying to listen, learn, and really connect within the organization. I mean, the real work isn't going to start till, intentionally June, July. Start to get a feel for, one of the things that I got right now on the agenda for command staff is specifically doing a complete audit, look at the organizational structure, where we are, and making an assessment. So once we're able to do that, and then really structurally make an assessment of where we are, then I can have a much better thoughtful and fruitful discussion as far as what was in place, what we just did, and where we're going as an organization.
Great. So for that, I've been told that with a job of this gravity, it takes about a year to get comfortable in your own shoes, a year to actually understand what's going on. So we'll give you about 6 months to figure it all out. Does that sound fair? All right.
And we can just talk just very kind of high level, 3 months from now, 4 months from now. I think that would be appropriate, at least have some sense of idea. But you're right. I mean, to put things in a place, it's going to take a little bit longer.
Also, right before the review.
Yeah. So let's.
Review.
So right before the review, or.
I that's about September, right? Is that's?
Well, no. So we do a year-end review. Traditionally, we've done a year.
Our review. I'm talking about the outside review.
The OIR. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. So what I'm going to recommend. So we've got a motion. We've got a second for it. We can actually agendize this without setting a date to it, but we can just put it on the agenda to hold it. Right. So I'll go ahead and call it all in favor of agendizing that presentation. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, so we'll go ahead and put that for a future date. Any other items that we want to agendize for June? Again, the year in review is a recommendation. It's not agendized yet, so somebody would actually have to agendize that. Mike?
I would like to make a modification to our agenda, because I see that in June we have the parking enforcement, and in July we have school bike and traffic safety.
Mm-hmm.
It's come up that there's been a lot of issues around the schools with parking.
Right.
So I would like to see, because we're discussing these two things which affect each other, to discuss it at the same time in terms of parking and traffic safety around the schools, rather than having it 2 separate months.
So just to clarify, your motion is to agendize the June item, which is update on parking enforcement safety, parking enforcement efforts since hiring parking enforcement contractor Last Parking, and the school bike and traffic safety at the same time in June?
In June, to discuss traffic and parking issues for the upcoming school year.
Okay, so I've got a motion for it. Do I have a second? We can open up brief discussion on it to clarify this.
Discussion.
Okay, so Paul's opening it up. Those are two, so a couple of things that have come up recently. We all received a memo about a document that kind of identifies what we need to do as boards and commissions. And one of the items on there is that we're supposed to try to keep the meetings to about 2 hours. I'm concerned that those are too large agenda items to put together along with something that we already have. Oh, I'm sorry, we already have it on the agenda. I'm concerned that's a lot to bite off for both the school bike traffic safety, which we've been spending a lot of time with over the last couple of years, and the update on, because of the new contractor, Laz Parking, which is its own set of issues and everything associated. I'm a little concerned about putting those together.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, if that's the case, I don't see anything agendized for August. I just want to have this discussion prior to the opening of the school year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every year, we always close the barn door after the horse got out.
Right.
And so I think that we need to have this in June or July to be proactive before school starts.
Go ahead, Captain.
If I can just address one thing. So I understand the concern about wanting to include parking as part of the school and traffic safety. Parking is one column of traffic safety, so there will absolutely be a portion of that addresses parking as it relates to the schools and the school traffic safety. But I'm going to agree, the parking and LAS topic is a very large topic in and of itself that is citywide and that has a lot of impact downtown and is probably better as a standalone topic. And we will definitely address parking in the school and traffic safety component.
Okay.
So procedurally, we've got two options. You can either withdraw it, or we can vote on it and just shoot it down. Your choice. What do you want to do?
Doesn't sound like a democracy.
Why can't we vote
We
on
got
it
choices.
and leave it on the future agenda?
I will withdraw the
motion.
The motion.
Perfect. That's the cleanest way to do it. I appreciate that. And we still can agendize, but you can also still agendize in July the school bike and traffic safety piece.
I would like to say in July or August, add on a whole new thing of what is our plan for traffic and parking for the upcoming school year.
I would second that, but I want to insist in July. By the time we meet in August, school has started already.
Yeah.
And
I'm old school. It used to start.
I know, but because my wife's a retired teacher, I know the schedule, and
Yeah.
There's two sides of the coin here.
I don't hear it in disagreement with what Mike said, though.
No, but I'm asking
Okay.
Ann for some help. When do the administrators come back after summer break?
Teachers kind of got in and have their meetings and stuff like the 9th of August. School starts the 13th.
But I'm thinking, if we wanted to communicate with administrators about potential ideas.
They float. They have a little time off. There's always always a couple
So
of
July 15th, in
them.
that range, they would be available?
By contact, I would think, or they can get the word, but at least the higher ups are approachable.
All right. So let's go. I'm gonna rein it in a little bit, and so we have the June piece we're taking care of for the update on labs with parking. It sounds like I'm looking for a motion on school bike and traffic safety with a specific focus on traffic and parking during the school year. I'm looking for a motion on that for the.
I'm seconding.
No, you withdrew, and then we got to jump back into. He made a second one. Okay, so Mike, so we're in the middle of a motion.
And Mr. McKenna
Hold on.
basically wanted prior to August.
Hold
We
on,
wanted
so
it
on
in
July.
which
Hold-
I support.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm hearing that the chief wants to jump in.
Sorry, now I'm trying to find the flow as far as like when it's appropriate for
Yeah.
me to. So here's my input, if I may.
Sure.
Based on the question that was asked of me, as far as setting a vision, certain set of expectations, what I'm trying to achieve within the organization. I can tell you that we just had a conversation specifically to address traffic safety. Traffic safety encompassing parking, LAS around our schools, around the entire city. To the DC's point, it's absolutely a loaded topic, just LAS in itself, and then overall traffic safety. Is there any possibility to table this from, and I only ask because those are things that I am currently working on.
Gotcha.
If there's a report that is going to be pushed out in June, you're going to have old information. You're not going to have anything as far as any initiatives that we're trying to lead, especially after we do a reorg of the organization and what I am going to prioritize. My opinion, could be a little bit more educational and fruitful, especially once we provide that direction for the organization for traffic safety and LAS, what we're trying to achieve, because there are a lot of other things that are currently working in the background, so you have the most up-to-date information.
Gotcha. So I'm going to do a little bit of truck driving with two clutches right now as we get through this. So Sherry, I'm going to need your help to do this. So Mike had already motioned for the school bike and traffic safety for July. Is that correct? And we already got a second on that? So we need a second on that. Paul seconds that. And so specifically, it's school bike and traffic safety with looking at traffic and parking for the school year. I just want to make sure we include that, Mike. Okay, so we've got that. So I've got a motion. I've got a second. Layla, you have a question about it?
No, I was just going to offer that it was specifically around what are the plans for the upcoming school year.
Perfect. So we've got that.
That was the focus.
Just trying to
Motion,
put
as I
the
understood.
cart in front of the horse.
So to close this out, all in favor of adding that to the July agenda? Show of hands, say aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, so that's unanimous for July. We're going to back it up for a minute, and I need somebody to make, based on what the chief had just shared with us, I'm looking for a motion to move the June agendized item about last parking. We can leave it on the agenda, but we just have to put it as a future agendized item.
I'll make a motion to put it on the future.
All right, so I've got a motion from I've got a second from Mike Ellman. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? All right, so we're moving the June agendized item to a future agendized item.
I just had a question on that, just as far as the July item we approved.
Yep.
It's really a question for the chief. Would it be possible to have that portion of the LAS presentation that would have talked about school parking issues as part of any of that information for our July discussion?
It's a little.
Or is it that, again,
little,
still just you don't want to,
Yeah, it's a little tricky, and we're getting too far into the discussion about the items and everything. But from what I heard, if I heard it correctly, there's an ask because there have been changes with the situation with last parking. Anything that gets presented at least in June, would be outdated information. We may hear about it in the July presentation, but we don't want to lock into that because there's still some moving parts on that from their perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, basically, we had said we were going to have two totally separate things.
Right.
So then I was just wondering, since we're sort of pushing the other one sort of indefinitely
Right.
because, things are in flux, but since we wanted to have this school conversation, I was just wondering if we could, even though, things may
Yeah.
change and it may be old information,
Okay.
just some information, relating to schools and parking. I'm just asking.
We can follow up and work on some details with that. So what I'm looking for now, just to make sure we're clean slate, I'm looking for additional agenda items for motioning and seconding right now.
I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I'd like to ask the chief what he thinks is appropriate, understanding his position right now, and rather than putting up something that's frivolous just to fill the gap, when the chief is telling us that 60 to 90 days he'd have a better grasp on it, what type of things are appropriate that we can talk about before we get into that window?
If I can jump in before you jump in on that. One of the tricky things is remembering that we're partnering with the department, but it's actually up to the commission to set the agenda. We take input, we collaborate, but I just want to lift that up.
I was asking for a suggestion, not an order.
Because, we're moving dangerously into a place where we're taking directions from the department. I just wanted to note that. But that said, Chief.
My suggestion, based on my experience in specifically managing a traffic division right across the way in a city doubled its size, and then also managing a outsourced contractor, is both generate a lot of questions. And there's a lot there just from the last parking side, especially because it's so new within the city. You currently have a lot of challenges going on, and also there's opportunities for doing some creative things for it, things that we're looking at right now, specifically associated with school safety.
Right.
But doing both independently, I think, will allow you as a commission to act more specific and directed questions and get what you need out of it instead of having to rush through and collectively do so much, because there is a lot there from a traffic safety standpoint and all the issues, challenges in a city of 17 square miles. and then also, a lot more focused and directed, especially with Laz in our downtown corridor and throughout the city.
I agree. Paul?
One last opportunity for me to get in trouble.
Go for it.
I think that, especially for the July, if we're going to do schools, that we need to put the word out to parents. Because I've seen on social media parents posting pictures and their complaints, and they don't necessarily know. That's why I'm asking.
So yes, we can't discuss topics that are not going to be agendized. We can briefly discuss an item that we want to agendize for a future meeting at this point.
Yeah. So we agendized it for July. You're having a discussion now about it. That's
Okay.
we can strategize around that and do that within the requirements of the Brown Act and everything, but we can do that. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's okay.
I just think that we have things that
Yeah.
we don't promote in a way that.
I hear you.
that most people,
I agree with that.
especially parents.
So what we haven't done yet is we have not agendized the year in review for June. And I don't know if there's a will or an interest in that. I'm interested in it, but.
All right, I'm going to make a motion for the year in review for the purpose of helping the new chief see what our role has been. And so let's turn a negative into a positive.
I love it.
The new chief saying he needs more time to get his feet on the ground. Let's kind of let him know how we see ourselves and how we can develop it.
I really appreciate that. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that
Ann?
motion.
Second from Ann. All in favor? Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, I appreciate that. Any other agenda items, future agenda items? Ann? No? Okay. Any other agenda items? Okay, so with that then, item I, our next meeting date is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025, right here in City Council Chamber. I appreciate you all, and I adjourn this meeting. Thank you.